was just 8 days ago that I received an early morning call from Bruce Burton. He had called to tell me that his dad had slipped away that cold winter's night, and to ask me if I would share a few remembrances of his dad here in this sanctuary that has been so important to his family for generations. I was, of course, numbed by the news. I think I said something really comforting and really inspired, like, "Oh no." But I was numbed. We all knew the news was coming, but still that feeling was there. There were some serious throat clearing that morning on both sides of the conversation. And when we ended the call, the memories began to flow, as I suspect they did with you as you learned the news. For me, the memories were first a trickle, a quick glimpse at a special moment, a mental snapshot of another time. But as the hours and then the days passed, the trickle became a steady stream, eventually a flood of deep and warm and meaningful memories of a man I had known for decades. And there were news stories, of course, at least new to me, stories from the family and from Ralph's colleagues at Brooks Cushman. There were stories about the Commodore, from sailing friends at Bayview and the Detroit Yacht Club and all around the lake. Tales told by the friends at the Prismatic Club who are here today, and sundry other groups of people and individuals whom Ralph had touched during a long and good life. So this morning, I stand before you knowing more about my friend than I did that brisk Friday morning just now, 8 days ago. I know more about the things he did and said and saw and thought. And taken together, these things, these events, weave a portrait of the man, the loss of whom has been so difficult for all of us these last days. And while many of the stories were new to me, my memories of the qualities of the man, of his values, of his character, those are to me what are most important, and they're unchanged. Ralph Moore Burton. As many of us have learned during these last few days, he was more to his childhood friends, and still is to Sister Ann. Ralph to friends made later in life, and colleagues in business, and to me and many others, the Commodore to family and sailing friends, and to many others. But to all of us, to everyone Ralph Burton ever met, he was above all a gentleman, one to be admired and respected and emulated. The Commodore was born in Detroit at a quite different time. He grew up on Edison Avenue, the son of a successful patent lawyer, whom he was to follow into the practice, the profession, and what turned out to be a 57-year career. His childhood was filled with sailing, with Mom and Dad, his sister at the Detroit Yacht Club, a pastime that morphed as it has so for so many of us into some serious sailboat racing. Is there another kind? That with Bruce and Glenn at the Bayview Yacht Club, and some championships to show for it. Family was of paramount importance to Ralph Burton. He took a much younger Bruce and Glenn with him to his office on cold winter Saturday mornings, where they draw and color pictures for hours while Dad worked. But then there were the lunches afterward at Lafayette, Coney Island, occasional trips to the camera and crane store over on Elizabeth Street to shop for electric train accessories. One-on-one with family was important to Ralph. Sailing on family boats, running train sets, or building slot car tracks in the basement. He taught us, Bruce told me, by doing things together. Ralph's career was important to him too. He started that career in 1954 at Burton and Parker, the law firm that his father had headed, and that dated to its founding in 1909. Burton and Parker eventually merged with Brooks Cushman in 1988, and there Ralph described Ralph, and I quote here, as a key component of the firm's growth and success. His experience and contributions, he said, have helped establish standards of excellence in the firm. Well, Ralph would often talk about his work at the dinner table with Virginia and the boys. But the law office problems always stayed behind the dime building or the Southfield or wherever the office was, which in his steadfast view is exactly where they belong. Volunteer service was important to Ralph. A big part of his life and his persona, he worshiped in this church from the time he was a child. He led it as his senior warden, as his father had done before him, as his son does now. He served in the United States Coast Guard and later taught a course on weather for the United States Power Squadron, becoming, not surprising to me, the Grosse Pointe Power Squadron Teacher of the Year. Of course, he was Commodore at Bayview Yacht, which is where I knew him best. But he was also president of the Prismatic Club, the Michigan Patent Law Association, the Friends of the Detroit Public Library, and yes, even the Richard Elementary PTA at the school boys attended in Grosse Pointe. In all, he was a member of some 18 clubs and organizations. But Ralph would never tell you about those presidencies, those chairmanships, those commodoreships, or any of that. You see, Ralph was never a resume builder. Collecting titles for the sake of having titles would never have occurred to Ralph Burton. Rather, he volunteered out of his own deep sense of a personal duty to serve. And when he served an organization, whether it was his church, the boys' school in Grosse Pointe, Bayview Yacht Club, a professional or non-profit organization, he worked tirelessly to the very best of his ability to contribute to that success. And if Ralph didn't believe he could make a real and lasting contribution, he'd simply decline to serve. Surely Ralph Moore Burton understood what Ralph Waldo Emerson meant when he wrote, "A great man is always willing to be little." Ralph was a quiet leader, always sensitive to the needs and feelings and the hopes and fears of others, but always focused laser-like on the goals of the organization which he had helped formulate. Ralph was confident of his abilities as a leader, but he never flaunted them. He didn't have to. Ralph simply led by example, and he never raised his voice, even in the most contentious, stress-filled situations. Peter Drucker wrote, "Management is doing things right. Leadership is doing the right things." Ralph understood that too, and he tried always to do the right things. Many years ago, the partners at his law firm, Brooks and Cushman, were assembled to consider whether to make one of the associates a partner in the firm. Everyone was in favor of doing that, except Ralph. Now, Ralph rarely objected to anything during these meetings, I'm told, so everyone was eager to know why he objected on this occasion. And Ralph said simply, without raising his voice, "This is not a good guy. Don't make him a partner." Well, the associate became a partner anyway, and a couple years later, he also became the only partner ever ousted from the law firm. Ever. And that took a unanimous vote of the partners. And to Ralph's credit, and you'll get this part, I'm sure you'll get this part, never once, ever, did he say, "I told you so." Bruce tells a story about his dad selling a car. One prospective buyer showed him the house, I suspect a dealer, and he told Ralph that if he lists the mileage on this car at 15,000 miles less than was actually the case, this guy would pay Ralph $500 more than Ralph was asking for the car. Well, you know what happened. Ralph declined, and I suspect politely, but also firmly, worth way more than $500. Yes, it's about doing the right thing. And so the stories went on and on during these 8 days. They're important because they give us comfort, maybe bring us a smile, maybe a tear. But they're more important because of the picture they paint, the portrait they weave of the man who was Ralph Burton. It's a picture of Ralph Moore Burton, a loving and devoted father, husband, grandfather, and brother, a talented lawyer, one who thrived on relationships that he built with clients and his colleagues and nurtured over a practice that stretched over nearly 60 years. He was a quiet, selfless, effective leader, a willing and able servant to others who gave his all to all he undertook. A man of unmatched and unquestioned integrity, always doing things right and doing the right things. And of course, he was a man of deep and abiding faith. That numbness that I felt 8 days ago is gone now. It's been replaced slowly at first, but surely with a quiet feeling of calm. Even a muted sense of joy, happiness, that I was permitted to know and to learn from Ralph Burton. And so I came here today, just as you did, to celebrate the life of an extraordinary man. For me, the Commodore